You should be sending trades for these Dynasty assets right freaking now. Welcome back to where you can trade in Dynasty. It's the most wonderful time of the year. People say, oh, Christmas. People say, oh, the holidays. No, it's after the holidays, the playoffs, and now you can make Dynasty trades. That's what life is about. That's where the happiness in life is found. It's a wonderful life to make Dynasty trades. So let's get into some Dynasty buy lows. You've been asking, okay, who do I trade for in Dynasty? Wanted to make sure everybody could trade before we give you these. These are the players that are the best buys in Dynasty Fantasy Football right now. One of the best buys right now in Dynasty Fantasy Football is Chris Olave. Chris Olave is a little bit of an interesting case because really his value has been propped up based on his name, right? This is a player that obviously we have seen produce in the NFL already. He was a high-end wide receiver too, even just last year, the wide receiver 16, in a situation in New Orleans where the last 3 years, when you look at it, has not been good at all. The Saints are a dumpster fire. They're in cap space purgatory right now, and so I don't think it's going to get much better. And that's one of the main knocks against Chris Olave is his obvious situational woes. But you do have to remember Chris Olave is an extremely good talent who has he's put results in on the field already that prove that Chris Olave is somebody that is going to, if he is healthy and has at least a somewhat decent situation, he's going to outperform what his price is right now. So let's talk about Chris Olave's price and what you can actually get him for. Because you'll remember Chris Olave was going as high as the third round, and now what you're seeing is he's going right there at the top of the sixth round. So this is going to be a 5-6 turn guy, and when you're getting to the 5-6 turns in your Dynasty startups this year, I'm going to take Chris Olave there every time, because really when you're looking at the talent surrounding Chris Olave in some of these community rankings here, you've got Chase Brown ranked above Chris Olave. From a value installation standpoint, it doesn't make a lot of sense. From a talent standpoint, Chris Olave is a better talent, but that's apples and oranges. Let's go to the wide receivers. Jordan Addison's now ranked above Chris Olave. DK Metcalf is next to Chris Olave. Jalen Waddle, Jaden Reed, Terry McLaurin, Jameson Williams, DJ Moore are the wide receivers below Chris Olave, but still right there value adjacent to him. And the reality is we would take Chris Olave over almost all of those guys, knowing that Chris Olave does have potential to not produce again next year because the situation is that bad, because the quarterback situation doesn't look like it's going to be fixed anytime soon. But with Olave, his price, in my opinion, outweighs the risk that comes along with that. And again, I do want to take a look at some of his metrics last season when we saw his full season of production where he was very good. I will mention this. The injuries are a concern. There is injury risk here. This isn't necessarily a guaranteed slam dunk. The dude's going to perform and never go back down again by. But when you're looking at his relative value, and I do think this is important, when you're looking at his all-time value, his relative value, Chris Olave is at the lowest point from a value standpoint that he's been since right after he played his first NFL game, right at the very beginning of his NFL career. So with Olave, I feel like when you're drafting him or when you're trading for him, what you're getting is an asset that is young, value insulated, and likely to increase in value just based on the nature of where these younger wide receivers tend to go as the offseason goes on. You buy Chris Olave now, my guess is he's going to be 10 to 15% more valuable even by the summer, regardless of what happens, with the situation. But again, I don't think the situation can get much worse right now. So with Olave, again, last year, you saw him be 6th in air yards. You saw him be 12th in the league in targets, 4th in deep targets, and 3rd in unrealized air yards last year, again, being a mid to high end wide receiver too. The production potential is there. The talent is there. And he's a guy, again, that needs to stay healthy, needs to stay on the field. But when you're talking about, we're not really worried about production so much right now. We will be if we get stuck with Chris Olave. But he's somebody that's likely to go up in value, and you need to be piecing together your Dynasty team in a way that your overall value portfolio of your team is going to go up as the offseason goes on. Chris Olave is one value-insulated young asset that is likely to go up in value. For those 3 reasons, you should be buying into Chris Olave now. Again, look at some value-adjacent players next to Chris Olave. You can make those swaps. You can obviously make some 2-for-1s. You can try to 2-for-1 for Chris Olave. You could down tier to Chris Olave from a 3rd or 4th round wide receiver guy and get a little bit on top. All of those are very good options for trading for Olave, and I think he's a very good buy right now in Dynasty Fantasy Football. If the player that has Chris Olave is done with him, if he's willing to sell him, if he's on the block at all, I would go send some trade offers for Chris Olave and see how cheap you can get him right now.
Christian McCaffrey is going to be our next guy here. And I think we have kind of quietly alluded to CMC being a buy for us in Dynasty heading into the offseason. And we haven't really given specific reasons for why, but we are going to now because he's on this video. And why, oh why, Domain guys, would you recommend, when you are so anti-running back as a reload or a rebuild or an anything build, to invest in a 28-year-old running back who's going on 29, coming off of an injury-riddled season where he really only played 3 full games and then tore his PCL or whatever the frick against Buffalo in Week 13 in the snow because he couldn't handle running on turf? Why would you ever do that? There are a few reasons why. Number one, we didn't like Christian McCaffrey's price to begin with heading into 2024. He was being priced as high as the early 3rd round, coming off of his RB1 overall season where he averaged like 25 freaking points per game in 2023. There was only room to go down as a 28-year-old running back. It was so easy to predict. And again, I don't want to victory lap this the entire time because we weren't predicting injury for CMC. We just knew that even if CMC was going to put up 18, 19, 20, 21 points per game this season, because we didn't expect him to get injured, he was going to lose at least 2 rounds of value. Because that's just the way it goes with running backs. See Derrick Henry. Even though Derrick Henry's being productive at 31 years old, his price is capped, and his price was capped for the last 3 years. So there was a point 2 or 3 years ago where you could have gotten off Derrick Henry and then bought him back later at a cheaper price. Same thing goes with CMC here. If you own CMC as a 3rd round asset last year and then you sold him, you can buy him back now. If you didn't own CMC and you had no part of CMC in Dynasty Fantasy Football because you were too scared of him, don't be scared of him anymore, folks, because he's going at a very, very palatable price at the moment. 28-year-old Christian McCaffrey at this point, his potential production outweighs his current price. It was the other way around now. This is purely a market move. I don't have to go into the efficiency metrics of what he's done and what he's able to do. He's Christian McCaffrey. You know what he's able to do. You know what he's capable of doing in San Francisco. He is under contract in San Francisco for the next
2 years?
Year or two.
Yeah.
He got an extension not that long ago. So, and again, you can move off those contracts with running backs anytime. So I'm not really even worried about the insulation and whatnot. But after 2025.
Yeah, so after next year.
So again, with CMC, this isn't a, he's going to last for another 3 years sort of play.
No.
This is, if you are a reload expecting to compete in 2025, if you are a rebuild expecting to sell off some assets heading into 2025 to contending assets who need production, if you're a contender who needs to contend again in 2025 before they go into a reload, go get Christian McCaffrey, please, and take the shot. There is not a player priced around him right now who has the same production upside capabilities in his price range, which I already said in his price range. It's that simple, guys. This is a market play move. It's not a tough take. It just isn't.
It's what it is a lottery. It's basically a lottery ticket. It's how cheap can you get a guy who could win you the league? And
it's a low risk, high reward lottery.
And when
ticket.
he's valued next to Brian Robinson and Tyron Tracy, I don't care. I'll take the lottery ticket because
take Tyron Tracy.
Because what's the ceiling for Christian McCaffrey? You win your dynasty league. You legit. This is the only guy in that range. This is the only guy. I mean, not because even really he's next to Tyreek Hill. I don't think Tyreek Hill is gonna win you your dynasty league next year. I think those days are probably over at this point. But they're not over for McCaffrey. You saw the 49ers and how bad they were without McCaffrey. This is, you buy McCaffrey. First of all, he's a good buy for any team, like Nathan said. And rebuild. Why would you buy Christian McCaffrey in a rebuild? And I know sometimes it seems a little bit confusing, and I'll explain that as simply as I can, because Christian McCaffrey has a 0% chance to go down in value from now until September. 0%. There's I would bet my life savings, which isn't that much. I would bet my life savings that Christian McCaffrey is going to go up in value from now. Why? Because what you've seen is him not produce and then him get put on IR. His value is at the lowest point it can be over the next 6 months. It cannot go down. It will not go down unless they draft Caleb Johnson. They're not doing that. They won't do that. They're not getting rid of McCaffrey. Maybe they will after 2025. Christian McCaffrey is going to be on the field next year, though. And if you buy into Christian McCaffrey at this price and he plays next year in the playoffs for you, congratulations, you just increase. He's one of the only players that can increase your chances of winning a championship by like 5 to 10%. That's huge. That's a ginormous advantage. I'll take the advantage. I'll take the risk. And again, what if Christian McCaffrey gets injured and he retires? What if that happens? It's very unlikely, by the way. Okay, you're out, a 7th, 8th round dynasty startup pick?
Out Brian Robinson? Is Brian Robinson going to win you a championship.
You don't have to
Brian
rebuild
Robinson,
at that point.
B-Rob's having the best season of his career, and he's averaging 12 points per game. That's good for a low-end running back 2, high-end running back 3.
And while all of these guys are good buys for every single Dynasty team, we give you specific buy targets for your Dynasty team based on your team archetype, your 3-year outlook, and what your positional grades are with your team blueprint at flockfantasy.com/domain. A comprehensive breakdown of your Dynasty team with every single strategy point you need to make sure you have a successful Dynasty offseason done personally by Nathan and I for your Dynasty fantasy football team. You're going to get all the information, all the breakdown you need of your Dynasty team to make sure you have a clear plan. Right now is when Dynasty championships are won. We can help you do it. We're going to be doing a lot of team blueprints. We are legit the team review, team blueprint guys. That doesn't change this year. Let us help you. Let us give you some buys specific to your team, some sells specific to your team, and talk about how you should be formulating your Dynasty strategy this offseason. Get a team blueprint. Link's going to be in the comments. Link's also in the description. Flockfantasy.com/domain. Annual tier gets you a free one with our 2025 rookie draft guide and all of our tools. But let's get back to it. Now, the next guy's a little bit more value insulated just from a name perspective. We talked about this guy, Marvin Harrison Jr., who is now the wide receiver 10 in community rankings over on Keep Trade Cut. Now, with Marv, there are some obvious red flags here. Number one, the production was not there this year. And you know, we talk about the situation. The situation could have been better in the sense that Kyler could have been better to get him the ball. But really, the situation could have been better for Marv because they really could have schemed him a lot better. They really could have done a better job of putting him in situations where he was having more catchable passes. Yes, Kyler has been bad, and that has been part of it. But I also think the offensive situation and them actually trying to get the ball in Marvin Harrison Jr.'s hand, it's not really been advantageous this year whatsoever. And so while the dude's been hit or miss, and mostly miss for that matter, he is one of the most value insulated players in Dynasty that is at a value low point relatively when you're talking about his value since he's really been drafted in the NFL. And yeah, it's a relative low point. It's not that low, but it is the lowest point of his career in terms of value. So because of that, I think that if you buy into Marv right now, the upside, the best case scenario here is that Marvin Harrison Jr. is, you know, the talent. We know he's a good talent. He flashed the talent this year. He flashed the production this year. So we know it's there. It's a matter of tapping into that consistently and getting, you know, into a situation with the Cardinals where they're going to actually scheme around him correctly because it wasn't correct this year. Kyler has to be better. The scheme has to be better, but the volume has to be more for Marv. We knew that Marv wasn't going to come in here and get 130 targets. He's not that type of player. I'm not surprised he's going to have 110 targets. I knew that I figured he would have 110 targets. And I don't expect it to go up very much more than that because he's an X wide receiver. He's an absolute true X wide receiver. But he's a very good X wide receiver that, in my opinion, he hasn't gotten any favors from his coach, from his scheme, from his quarterback. And so when you're baking all of that into his current name, Marvin Harrison Jr., his name value, his value insulation, his age, his position, there really is it's a very small chance that he would actually decrease in value as the offseason goes on. And again, we're value hunting right now. This is a value hunt for a guy that has elite upside. So you like that. And so what type of trades are you getting into Marvin Harrison Jr. for? One of two. Probably the first one would be down tiering from wide receivers that are ranked above him. Nico Collins, Brian Thomas Jr., JSN, for Marvin Harrison Jr. plus. You might say, I'm not getting that done in my league. Darn, you're going to get it done in some leagues. You just will. People are very low on players, especially in home leagues, especially in less competitive leagues. People just tend to be low on players that aren't producing right then and there. That's just how it is. A lot of times production will drive a players down in casual leagues so much that you can get him for pennies on the dollar compared to what you can get him in a competitive league in Dynasty. And that's just how Dynasty landscapes are. Because of that, you either are down tiering to Marv or you're up tiering to Marv from players that are ranked below him that are more towards their ceiling. I get some examples of that real quick because I think this is an important one. Players that are more towards their ceiling that aren't going to jump into the wide receiver 1 stratosphere in Dynasty Fantasy Football. I think a good example of this is up tiering from George Pickens, up tiering from Zay Flowers, up tiering from Jordan Addison, and getting to Marvin Harrison Jr. and seeing how much you have to add on top to get there. I think that's a good way to get Marvin Harrison Jr. as well in terms of, you know, flipping value adjacent guys for Marvin Harrison Jr. That's not my favorite move, and I don't love flipping guys. That I would either want to, again, try to get to a new level of talent and a new level of ceiling and use my value to do that, or down tier and get a pick on top. So you're insulating your value in your trade even more. And so Marv is somebody that I think, you know, again, I think it's very likely he increases in value as the offseason goes on.
Let's go through a couple scenarios with Marvin Harrison Jr.
I love scenarios.
The Cardinals go into the offseason and they heavily invest in the offensive line either through free agency or the NFL draft. What happens to Marv's value?
Up.
goes up. They decide not to do that, and they go invest in the defensive side of the ball because they need a lot of help there. What happens to Marvin Harrison Jr.'s value?
It goes
Stays the same, maybe even goes up. It's going
to go up anyways, is what I'm saying.
You head into 2025, he puts up 2 to 3 straight ultra-productive games, 20-plus point games, because he is the top option there and has big play upside. What's going to happen to his value? Goes up. Oh, Nathan, that's stupid. That would never happen. It literally just happened this year. It literally happened in September when he had 2 straight games where he had big play touchdowns.
Wasn't
and
it
he
one?
was the wide receiver 3. He was literally ranked as a wide receiver 3. He's a wide receiver 10 right now. So it was, how many games was it? It was 2.
Well, really, like, he only had one consecutive game over 20 points this year. Like, it really just wasn't.
That was enough to prop up his value.
There was that game.
After the little dip. That's all it's going to take.
Because he did it all in the first half. And so
that's all it's going to take.
People were like, wide receiver 3. I've seen enough. He's
a risk-free bet.
Yeah,
he's
he really
quite
is.
literally a risk-free bet. Yeah. So the next guy that we're going to have here is J.J. McCarthy. I think that the Michael Penix Jr. experiment has just proven again our point that you should be investing in J.J. McCarthy before he gets a starting opportunity. Penix has not even had to do anything production-wise, which he shouldn't have to because he was ranked too low to begin with. But the moment he stepped on the field, boom. He's a starting quarterback in a super flex league in an offense that has Drake London, Bijan Robinson, and Kyle Pitts. I can't even believe I'm including Kyle Pitts. Darnell Mooney.
Ray McLeod.
And Bijan Robinson and Ray McLeod. And then throwing Kyle Pitts in a target every other game.
Don't even talk about Kyle Pitts.
He's not even. He doesn't belong in there. No. Kyle Pitts out of the picture. Michael Penix Jr. in an offense that is good, not great. His value's been propped up automatically, and we'll see what he does the last couple weeks of the season. You'll probably see his price kind of come down to earth a little bit while people are trying to figure out how to price him. But if he plays well the last couple weeks of the season, it'll go up.
It'll go up. Yeah.
We're not to that point yet with McCarthy, and we will not get to that point until the offseason. Guess what's going to happen? You can come back and dunk on me if I'm wrong about this, but I don't think I'm wrong about this. I think we're trying to overcomplicate this situation in Minnesota. Sam Darnold has been really, really good. Sam Darnold, for some reason, isn't involved in the comeback player of the year conversation because they changed the qualifications for that. I think they have to come back from injury. Sam Darnold, one of the biggest surprises of the season this year because Kevin O'Connell is an incredible coach. Sam Darnold probably has gotten a little bit of a bad rap the last couple of years because he's been in horrible situations up until Minnesota. Sam Darnold is going to have to get paid this offseason. What did the Minnesota Vikings just do in 2024 to avoid paying Kirk Cousins? They didn't pay him. And they went and they drafted a quarterback in the first round in J.J. McCarthy. Instead, they signed Sam Darnold for like a super cheap 1-year contract while J.J. McCarthy developed on the bench. Now Darnold is actually worth some monies. He's worth like a Daniel Jones contract, like probably $45 million. A team will pay for that for Darnold. A decent team will. In this quarterback market right now, because they don't want to pay $55 million to another quarterback that's good, not great. Minnesota's not going to do that. They just said they weren't going to do it. Sam Darnold is Kirk Cousins level when Kirk Cousins was at his best. I don't want to be rude. I really like Sam Darnold. He'll be good in a different situation. J.J. McCarthy is the Minnesota Vikings' future, whether you like it or not. He's starting in 2025. Darnold is not stupid enough to take another 1-year deal as a potential bridge backup quarterback for the Vikings. He's going to start somewhere where he gets paid the most money, and it's not in Minnesota. So go buy J.J. McCarthy.
Yeah, because here's the thing. This is the most simple way to put this. Buy J.J. McCarthy for the 15% value increase he's going to have when the Vikings actually come out and have to say
that he's going to play.
He's the starter. Like,
we're going to know before the season even starts. You're not even going to have to see him on the field.
It's like a cheat code.
It's easy. It's easy. Dynasty is easy sometimes.
It's like we're Pelosi and we're insider trading, like, because we know we already have inside information and we know that J.J. McCarthy's value is going to go up because he's going to be the starting quarterback there next year. And again, it's not that Sam Darnold's bad. Nathan's not saying that at all. Sam Darnold's going to get paid somewhere else. The Vikings are absolutely going to start J.J. McCarthy, and so famous last words. But Keon Coleman's going to be the next guy.
I'm not even afraid. You can come back and dunk on me. I've already had plenty of very popular takes and unpopular takes on J.J. McCarthy.
I was going to say, Nathan making takes on J.J. McCarthy. Like, let's be careful with this. So Keon is interesting because obviously he spent a lot of his rookie year injured. But the dude, I mean, so here's the thing. Like, and I think this is a good way to put this. Keon Coleman, obviously, we were lower on him. A lot of people were lower on him, but he got the draft capital, went to a good situation. And when he's been on the field this year, he's produced. He's produced when he's been on the field and he's been healthy. He's had double-digit games. The targets haven't been there, but again, he's in an offense that has been one of the better offenses in the NFL, playing with what has been maybe the best player in the NFL this year in Josh Allen. And he's playing alongside other weapons like Khalil Shakir, who have been fantasy productive, James Cook, who's been fantasy productive, the tight ends, let's not talk about because Dalton Kincaid has disappointed us fantasy production. But Coleman has still come in as a rookie, as a 21-year-old, as a raw player, as a 6'4", 215-pound, really wide receiver. And he's coming in and produced when he's had the opportunity. He's produced from a game-by-game perspective when you're looking at, the small sample size. He's produced as much as some of the guys that we're given the benefit of the doubt to, like Marvin Harrison Jr. But when we're talking about Keon Coleman, we'll give Keon the benefit of the doubt, but only so far because he's the wide receiver 34 on Keep Trade Cut. The wide receiver 34. This is a guy that is threatening going right now in the ninth round. And he's being valued next to guys like Tyrone Tracy, Sam Darnold, Brian Robinson, Dalton Kincaid. He's literally value adjacent next to Dalton Kincaid. And he plays at a more value-insulated position. He plays at a position where you have more scarcity there in terms of guys who are actually truly elite, and you want more wide receivers than you do tight ends on your dynasty teams. He's really, when you're looking at the production, it's not like Kincaid has blown him out of the water. Why is he valued there? Why is he valued next to Khalil Shakir? He's got higher ceiling than Khalil Shakir. I love Khalil Shakir, by the way. I'm thinking he's a great dynasty asset. An early second. We're giving all of these players up top here the benefit of the doubt, even if they haven't produced. Keon Coleman has come in. He's produced in the small sample size he's had, and we're still kind of like, you know what? We haven't really seen it, so we're just going to draft him in the 8th, 9th round this year. It's like, fine. But I think Keon, who came out, was drafted to be this maybe not even immediate impact player. I don't know if the Bills expected that of him. Had some immediate impact. He didn't do nothing this year, but he was always going to be a project. He's a project to flash this year.
That's what's ironic to me is like it wasn't just the situation that we were drafting Keon Coleman for. What did we expect Keon Coleman to do his rookie season? What did everyone expect out of Keon Coleman when they were evaluating him as a prospect in the dynasty community? He was raw. He was a project. It was going to take some time. And once we get to the middle of the season and we see some goose eggs coming up here and there, and a couple of 3-4 target games are resulting in a ton of crazy production, crazy elite production like Brian Thomas and Malik Neighbors, he falls a little bit. Why?
And this is a dude that, like, when you're looking at his snap share, like he didn't even really get to like above 80% snap share consistently, but for like the 3 games before he got injured, and he was 16, 18, and 5 those 3 games. Look, he's value insulated. He's young. He's on a great offense.
He's like stupid young.
He's 21. Those 3 reasons alone are I think reasons to invest in him. I don't know if his value goes crazy up this offseason, but he's definitely somebody I'm willing to take a shot on as a young, high upside player, and again, one of the best offenses in the NFL. Somebody who was a raw prospect, came out and produced a little bit. I'll take my shots on Keon Coleman this year. I just is more of a shot call. I'll do it.
The risk of investing in him hasn't changed. If anything, the risk has gotten a little bit less risky because we've actually seen what he can potentially do for the Buffalo Bills long term.
Yeah,
it's a decent bet. DJ Moore is going to be the next guy that we have here. DJ Moore is someone that we've kind of been all over the place for quite a while. I mean, dating back to when he was traded in the big crazy trade for Bryce Young between the Bears and the Panthers, and he was the top option for Justin Fields, and everyone was like, oh my gosh, Justin Fields and DJ Moore. DJ Moore is going to make Justin Fields an MVP candidate. Blah 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 blah. He did not make Justin Fields an MVP candidate. That's for sure, because Justin Fields is awful, but he also somehow managed to be a wide receiver 1 that year. And a lot of it was his big play ability, the opportunity he was getting down the field, and he had 8 touchdowns. His yards per reception was like 14.2 or something. So there were some efficiency metrics there that you looked at. Okay, like 136 targets, 96 receptions. Like, that's good, not great volume, and a bad offense that, may get better with Caleb Williams in the future, but they just drafted Rome Odunze. There's probably room for regression there. We'll see. Weren't the biggest advocates for like smash buying DJ Moore last year because there were some questions there. Now it's time to go invest in DJ Moore because he's falling a bit too much. This season in 2024, believe it or not, he is the wide receiver 11.
He's a wide receiver 1. The dude's had a less than impressive season, and he's a wide receiver 1.
A very less than impressive season, and he's a wide receiver 1. When you actually break down what he's done production-wise this season, he had a really, really bad spell from week 6, the bye week in week 7, and then 8, 9, and 10, where he had 6, 5, 7, and 5 points. That was a low point for DJ Moore. And before that, he had a really high floor of a 10, 11, 15, 11, and then 27 points in Carolina. You're like, okay, there we go. And now this is actually ironic since they basically decided to move on from Eberflus. He's been pretty good. 26, 23, 10, 15, 14, and 12 points. He's really come on at the end of the season because of all that target volume. That's been at the expense of Rome Odunze. And Keenan Allen has been productive in that stretch as well. Now you take Keenan Allen out of that offense. So we've basically seen that any given week, 2 wide receivers can be very productive in the Bears offense because go figure, Caleb Williams provides a decent amount of volume and he's a good quarterback from a passing game perspective for the wide receivers there. Next year, it's going to be DJ Moore and Rome Odunze. Throw Rome Odunze as a buy in this video if you want to. We just didn't put him in here because we've been talking about a ton of rookies. But Rome Odunze, for very similar reasons, is a buy like DJ Moore is. DJ Moore, I think, is the bigger buy because he's contract insulated. He's still only 27 years old. And what was the other reason? Oh, yeah. His price is way less than Rome Odunze's right now. Odunze, you're kind of baking into his price that he's eventually going to be that top option for Caleb Williams. As the top option for Caleb Williams, DJ Moore as a second option can still be a high-end wide receiver too. I think there's more safety in investing in DJ Moore than people would give that situation credit for because it's going to look way different than it has, guys. Chicago's done in investing in defensive head coaches. They're going to go out there and they're going to go get a fancy, smart, new, young play caller who will probably be Ben Johnson because Ben Johnson has connections there. Some would say that he didn't take any jobs last year because he wanted the Chicago job and then they didn't fire Eberflus. Now they have. And you're going to see, I think, every receiving asset in that offense reap the benefits. DJ Moore probably being the primary beneficiary, I would bet, next season.
Just the name value of Ben Johnson, if he does go there, which I think you're right, he's probably going to.
Boom.
All of them are going to go up. You should buy every Bears asset in that. I mean, not Swift, but every other Bears asset because.
And you say that's too much of an assumption. You can't assume that. Blah blah blah.
We're not guaranteeing it, but
we're not guaranteeing it. But even if Ben Johnson doesn't go there, guys, I guarantee you, any head coach that is hired to be the head coach for the Chicago Bears is going to elevate the value of every single one of those assets in that offense because they're not Matt Eberflus.
Because it's not Eberflus. You really shouldn't have gotten that job.
Right.
Zach Charbonnet is going to be the last buy. Why? 2 reasons. He's better than Kenneth Walker. He's better than Kenneth Walker. I'll plant my flag there. I planted my flag on Charbonnet his senior year of college. Really, when I thought he was going to come out, he didn't come out, and I had to wait another year to actually cover him in Dynasty videos. Loved him, my guy, one of the first my guys I ever had making videos for Dynasty.
The Seahawks were in the 2023 draft.
You remember my reaction to that draft? Somewhere out there floating in the internet, there's my reaction to that draft, and I was devastated.
You couldn't function.
But I was also very angry. I'm like, if you have Kenneth Walker, you believe in him that much, why do you draft Charbonnet? And we see the more common committee things going on now, but really what it is, Kenneth Walker, the second reason is Kenneth Walker is injury prone and there's no way around it. He is injury prone, period, exclamation point. I will not debate that. He is injury prone. He cannot stay healthy. Charbonnet's better. He can stay on the field, although Charbonnet's had his fair share of injuries as well. They've not been as serious or as lingering as Kenneth Walker's. Charbonnet's better. Look, this is a running back. It's risky to buy into a running back, but I think that Zach Charbonnet, I think he's going to get a lot more run. He's been one of the most efficient backs when you're talking about yards per, when you're talking about the yards created per touch, 8th in the league. And so fantasy points per opportunity, 10th in the league. He's very efficient. He should get more opportunity snap share, 37th in the league. So once his opportunity goes up, similar to Bucky Irving, he could be more productive. So there you go. Some buys for your Dynasty Fantasy Football team. Make sure you drop a like. Make sure you subscribe. Flockfantasy.com/domain. Use code domain to get your team blueprint. Link is down in the comments. Appreciate you guys. We'll see you later.